Hi, I'm Paul Camillos. Join me and my co-host Jacinta Gavin for Series 4 of Shooting the Breeze. We cover women's hoops and women in hoops. We talk to inspiring players, amazing coaches, and the legends behind the scenes and at the grassroots of the game. During this series, we'll be covering the FIBA Women's World Cup, where the 12 best teams on the planet are coming to Sydney. And of course, we'll be covering Australia's longest-running women's professional sporting league, the WNBL, in its 43rd season. Hit that subscribe button, like and review so we can get more hoops content to you.
I've had people come up to me that I know, that I work with, that I speak to, and they're like, I was watching this basketball on TV, it was so fast, it was so exciting, and there was one person in particular who was like, who was that smaller lady that was so fast? Shanece Beckford-Norton. I was like, you want to watch Shanece Beckford-Norton every week? Watch the WBBL. And it really gave exposure, I think, to a lot of the talent that we have.
In episode 82, we're travelling the world. Dynamic UK duo Cazzy and Daz join us for this lively episode as we're talking about the exciting developments in UK hoops since the last time we caught up. There's the unbelievable perfect season for WBBL champs, the London Lions, along with some of the names leaving an indelible mark on the English basketball scene, not to mention the silver medal that England landed at the Birmingham Commonwealth Games 3x3. But we don't stop there. We explore the state of play in the WNBA, a league Caz Daz first connected over, and some of the challenges and frustrations in the big picture of women's hoops as we approach a Women's World Cup with key players MIA. Always a load of fun when we catch up, but we don't skirt the serious topics either. It's an all-out ball of a pod. Enjoy Around the World in episode 82. Welcome to Shooting the Breeze. Joining us today, back again, Caz Daz from the UK, joining myself and my co-host Jacinta Gavin. Guys, how you doing?
We're doing good. It's been a while, hasn't it, since we did this last time, just before Christmas. But it's been busy. It's been busy in the world of British basketball. We've been busy, I guess, personally doing loads of different things for a lot of different teams, getting involved in a lot of things. But it's been a really, really exciting sort of end to the British season, and we're about to kick off the new one in about 6 weeks' time. So that's super exciting as well.
Yeah, thank you for having us back again. Been keeping up with what you guys have been up to, and you've been crushing it. And so thanks for having us back. And it's been a really busy, exciting time in British basketball. And like Cazzy says, we're a couple of weeks away from getting ready for a new season and what that's going to hold, and a lot of question marks about what that's going to hold, really.
Yeah, it's like we were following all things along, and I got to be honest, I still have problems getting my head around this one, but the London Lions swept all 4 trophies.
Yeah, didn't lose a domestic game.
No.
36-0. Was it 36-0?
24. I'm going to go with yes. I'm just going to say yes. 24 plus 3. No, more than that, maybe. Anywho, yeah.
They didn't lose.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's the O. Game. It's the O. Never mind the number of wins, it's the O.
Man, that was just amazing.
That was an incredible team. That was I feel like that was a really, really special team, a really special season. And I just think that shows what British basketball can do.
Yeah, and, it's kind of pointing to the future too, because when you think about it, it's like if you can string together performances like that, it can't be that far off before we're going to start seeing British teams in World Championships, figuring in the Olympics. It can't be that far off.
Well, I mean, that Lions team, of course, sorry, Caz, diving in, but they had 2 Olympians who played back in 2012. Of course, Jo Leedham-Warner, who is, if not the GOAT, is certainly in the conversation for the GOAT, and Azania Stewart, who I've been lucky enough to co-commentate with on the men's side of things at the back end of the season. So, yeah, I mean, they had that Olympic pedigree already, and the learning that would have gone on under the learning tree of Jo Leedham-Warner, unmatched. So, yeah, like you say, there is real excitement for the future about a number of the players on that team from last year and what they're going to bring back this year.
Because I noticed on both of your social media accounts, and like you said, gearing up for the next season, you've both been posting, new signings across the league. So how much would the London Lions be able to retain that legendary roster?
Yeah, they've done a really good job retaining. I don't know if we've got the full roster list, but we've been seeing the players that they're bringing back and the players that they've brought in as well. It's looking really good. They have lost a couple of players who didn't feature heaps last year. They've also lost Cassie Breen, who, if you're able to replace her shooting, you've done really well. And it looks like, I think they may have done just that. They've brought in WNBA talent. They've brought in Belarusian international talent. And they just signed called Ty Battle.
Ty Battle, yeah, from Colorado.
Yeah. So the team is looking, again, the big one is they've lost Jo Leedham-Warner. Like, she's retired. Caz, I'm doubting myself as per. She has retired, yes?
She has retired, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember her telling me that at the end of the, after the championship game, and me being like, nah, come on, like, let's run this back. Yeah. She's like, that's the last time you'll see me. But
she announced it with a great post as well on Twitter. She just put retired, see post. And she'd posted something on Instagram, but it was just very...
Yeah. The Lions build is looking really positive. They've got a new general manager in as well. So the organisation has taken another step, I think, in that professionalism, just will to win and will to dominate. And they're going to be back in Euro Cup again, which is going to be absolutely enormous.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because we recently had Lena Wallen-Cansey from FIBA on the show, and she was talking about the European basketball and the quality of play there. It's going to be interesting with the Lions going into that competition because it's just going to raise the quality of the play. To me, it seems like raising that quality of play is going to have a big impact on the WBBL generally as well. So we're going to start seeing that improvement across the board.
I think you saw that as well in the second half of the Lions season. So obviously they were like a very good team all the way through the season. But I think you saw that difference. So they played the Euro Cup between, I want to say, sort of October to December. And the team looked, they looked good. But after January and after that experience, I think they looked incredibly tight, very together. And obviously that comes with playing together, throughout the season. But I do think that experience will definitely have helped push them towards that. And like you say, just brings up the standards of the league.
Yeah, and Lena did actually refer to the Euro League in our episode as the best league in the world, ahead of the WNBA. So it makes sense that the Lions have come back, stronger and probably a little bit more cohesive after that experience, given they'll probably be exposed to a lot better variety of competition, having to handle different situations and adversities and things like that. So yeah, it sounds like a very clear, positive experience from dipping their toe in the Euro League.
Yeah, Lions played Euro Cup, which is one competition down on EuroLeague.
Oh, that's right. It was Euro Cup. Yep.
Yeah, but it is such a high-level competition still. Bourges, who Lions actually beat in the historic Crystal Palace, and it was incredible. Bourges went on to win the competition, and Bourges made it through. Did they make it through to the quarterfinals of EuroLeague the year before? Did they make it out of their group?
They did make it out of the group, yes.
Okay.
I can't remember how far they got.
No, I can't remember. But anyway, that's the level of competition we're talking about. Also, fun fact, Jo Leedham-Warner won Euro Cup with Bourges back in the day. It was really a perfect situation.
And don't say, I know that she's announced her retirement, a very understated retirement announcement, it sounds like, but never say never because, our GOAT also had retired once upon a time, but she's back.
And Azania Stewart as well. She'd sort of semi-retired, hasn't she? Came back, played for GB and the Lions again.
She hadn't semi-retired. She had retired. She was out of the game. She was working she did team manager role with GB, and then the back end of the season before last, she comes back out of retirement, like you say, playing for Leicester, and now has made her way to London. So
if in a few years Jo wants to be like, you know what, I fancy playing for the Manchester Mystics, let's do it.
I can't see Jo coming back. I think that when she says she's done, I think she says she's done.
Yeah.
As much as I want to see her back next year. Are you kidding me? But then again, what a way to go. What a way to end a career. Unbeaten in the league. Yeah. Win all, how many championships did they win in the end? 3, 4?
4.
4 championships in the end.
She was
50-40-90. 50-40-90. 50-40-90.
Yeah, you can't top that. They say you got to go out on top, and you can't really top that.
There's no topping that.
Nah.
She was the WBBL Player of the Year.
Lions Player of the Year, Lions Moment of the Year.
Oh, that
fan vote.
I don't know if you guys have seen it, because I mean we reposted it a lot. There was a moment in the cup final in Birmingham in January when London were playing Newcastle, and this just epitomises Jo's game. She dives on the floor for a loose ball, manages to get it, flings it over the back of her head to a cut-in Holly Winterburn to the basket, who scores a layup. And it was just like the play itself was just incredible. It was just Jo all over.
So I was stood next to Jo and Holly when Jo got given that award. And Holly, I think, in my memory, this is how it went. It's like, Holly was like, what was that for? It's like, oh, you remember that play where I was on the floor, I chucked it to you? And they're like, oh, yeah. Great, yeah. Super
Just that one. Just that one.
Like, oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what, this seems to be an awful...
play.
But there seems to be an awful lot of this, over the head going on. There was that one just, last week in the WNBA.
Yeah. She's done that before, apparently. She's practices that one. But yeah, you've got to know where your teammates are, aren't you? You've got to get it right. You've got to be able to do that right.
Yeah, and it's not just the execution of the pass, it's the timing that comes around the execution of that pass that makes those plays so good. Because it's kind of like obviously the precision, but it's the timing of the cut. Otherwise, you are at risk of looking very foolish. Exactly, yeah. Because the Jo's one as well. Like, I don't even think she's looking. She's not looking towards the basket, and she's just got to know, and her teammates have got to know that she's going to be on the floor after every ball, so to be aware for something coming towards them.
Where that comes from, other than Jo and Holly being both exceptionally skilled at what they do, is before every game, who's out there, who's like the first people on the floor getting shots up, and who's getting shots up longest? It's Jo, it's Holly.
Yeah,
those two. This, I don't want to speak out of school or anything, but this has been such a fantastic learning year for Holly Winterburn.
Yeah.
Because she's got to spend a year working with the absolute pro, one of our best ever players. And it looks like, from the outside looking in, Holly's taken on so much of what Jo's been given, and it's only going to be amazing for Holly's career. We are under no illusion. She is not going to be a London Lion for forever. If she's a London Lion after this season coming, so next year, that would be... I don't know the contract situation, but I would imagine that it's going to be coming due end of next year.
So she's got a two-year deal. So she's got 2 seasons. We've got 2 seasons.
If she doesn't end up in high-level Europe, then she's ended up in high-level Europe. Let's just say that now.
Well, we've been seeing that happen with the WNBL as well. Got an awful lot of players who've decamped for Europe, which on the upside, it means that there's more slots open for players to move up into the WNBL, but it's a lot of talent that we lose.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? You need the balance. So you obviously want players to go on and become the best they can do and reach the top of their career. And if that means, going to Europe and the higher leagues in Europe, that's fantastic. But like you say, you want to be able to level up the domestic leagues as well to bring that talent. You don't want the talent dearth, do you, when players go? So it's important to keep those pathways coming through. And I think I think our academies in the GB under 16s, GB under 18s as well are doing a really good job at the moment. Obviously, there's a gap, but they're trying to get the players and the talent through younger and hold on to it and push through, so that when someone leaves, it can be replaced in theory with that talent coming through.
It's going to be a really interesting test on that theory, that idea, this season with the Sevenoaks Suns, who last year, what did they do? They went 21-3. So they lost 2 games to London, and who was the other loss? Was it Sheffield?
No, it was a wild one to Nottingham. It was a completely out of the blue crazy one, that was.
But what do the Sevenoaks Suns look like this year? Not sure anybody really knows. And last year was a little bit of a transition year kind of a transition year. Is that fair to say, Caz, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Because I guess really Sevenoaks were the team, weren't they, to beat the last few years. They had an unbeaten championship season. Was it 2016-17? Yeah, 2016-17. Yeah. They won the trophy in the playoffs. So they did lose in the cup. But they were the team to beat And then London have come in and kind of one-up them a little bit to do that. But we talk about Jo Leedham retiring, but also at the end of the season, Kat Carr, Sevenoaks, and Janice Monacana announced their retirements as well for Sevenoaks. So the Sevenoaks team is going to look, as Darren says, very different. And it's going to be really interesting to see how they make that transition.
But I mean, Len Bush, who head coach and runs that program, he's got a good eye for talent. He knows a good basketball player when he sees one, and I'm sure he'll be able to recruit. You know, they're now even more entrenched with the Surrey Sports Park, so they're playing in Guildford, a nice arena, BBL arena. So hopefully their recruitment is going really strong, and they bring through a fair number of kids as well.
That's something that I think they've done well, haven't they, this season? So that there's been an announcement that the Surrey team and Sevenoaks will kind of like work together. Is it a double header on game days, like we've been saying, or they're linked almost?
Yeah, I think I saw something like that. Yeah.
So they're obviously trying to boost the women's profile as well, which is something that we've been saying that some teams, if they've got that, it's going to be good for them if they can tap into that Surrey BBL base.
Yeah, and also to blend into the men's side of things just briefly, it's a huge year for Surrey. It's such an important year for Surrey after a couple of really down seasons. They've got new coaching, new players in, and if the men's side can really get rolling, and they have a fantastic fan support, and if some of that can lead into the women's side for the Sevenoaks women, it could be really, really positive.
And what about, so obviously, the last season for the WBBL was so successful, London Lions setting that tone of being literally unstoppable. But you've also had the Comm Games in between, and England did exceptionally well in the 3x3. So have you seen any positive impact given the last, WBBL, BBL leagues, the success of the Comm Games? Has that kind of positive impact been, overflowing now as you prepare for the next WBBL season?
So I think the 3x3 has done a fantastic job of getting people interested in basketball itself, and also in the domestic league as well. I've had people come up to me that I know that I work with, that I speak to, and they're like, I was watching this basketball on TV. It was so fast. It was so exciting. And there was one person in particular who was like, who was that smaller lady that was so fast? Shanece Beckford-Norton. I was like, you want to watch Shanece Beckford-Norton every week? Watch the WBBL. And it really gave exposure, I think, to a lot of the talent that we have on the team as well. Chantel Handy, another Olympic legend, a GB legend. She's going to be playing in Caledonia this year in the WBBL. Hannah Jump, who is currently at Stanford at the moment. She was the first British woman to win a NCAA title. And it really, that kind of exposure, and also it's been on the BBC, and there's been a lot of talk about it as well. I think 3x3 in itself gets people interested because it's very quick and exciting. But being able to say to people, if you like that, you can watch these players. You can watch them every week in the WBBL, in the BBL for the guys as well. And the field, I know we've been waiting for this for years, decades, but it almost feels like this is a turning point, and I hope the leagues really capitalise on that. Like for me, Shanece Beckford-Norton, her face should be everywhere. Yeah. You walk around London, you should see her face on a billboard. Come and watch this team. For me, it feels like a turning point. And the crowds in the venue, I mean, each game was sold out. The atmosphere was amazing, and I think it's really tapped into something.
I think it's really positive as well, to piggyback off what you've said, Caz, to see WBBL talent playing in this competition. Like, it could have been doable for Team England to go and pick a bunch of players who play in Europe or play wherever, but instead, we saw WBBL talent. And for the men's side, we even saw National League talent. He should be playing in BBL, but it works for him better to work in National League, then fine. But we have domestic talent playing, and that's so exciting as well.
And we had for the Scotland team as well, so not just England. We had Scotland represented by Kennedy Leonard in London. We had Leicester, Caledonia, Essex players as well. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I think 3x3 has actually done a lot to raise the profile of basketball, not just with Comm Games, but like across the board around the world. There's a lot of hype, a lot of excitement. It's bringing a lot of more eyeballs to the game. What's the sort of uptake outside of those sorts of major competitions of the game in the UK?
3-on-3 is very, very popular at the moment. It seems like every week my Instagram and Twitter is just full of people going to Ball Out, going to what is Martin's tournament called? GG?
GG, yeah. I think that's this weekend, actually.
Is it? Oh, comes around quicker every year. But yeah, Martin Diane's GG 3-on-3 tournament is awesome every year. Red Bull tours. So yeah, there's loads of uptake. There's loads of teams playing. So yeah, it's becoming very, very popular. And we're seeing a lot of the same faces week in, week out. And a number of the, I think some of the Team England will be playing as well in the 3-on-3 this weekend and have been throughout the off-season.
Yeah, and I think what you see as well is you see a lot more, and obviously it's because we have a lot of people making content, a lot of content creators, but you're seeing clips, you're seeing highlights that are, getting a lot of views. And I guess for the demographic, maybe you kind of aim at Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I'm too old, so I don't know. But that kind of audience, when you're able to get like a clip like that, it gets the interest, it gets the eyes on it, and that's what you want.
Don't feel bad about being too old for TikTok because I keep messaging my 13 and 15-year-old niece and nephew saying, hey, can you help me with this TikTok? How do I do this? How do I do this part? Where do I put the text? And they don't help me. I have to go on YouTube.
I made the decision that TikTok is something that I can't be messing with. Not at my old age.
It is a little bit more embarrassing if you want to do one in public and you turn up somewhere. Like tomorrow, if I go to scrimmage, I have an idea for a TikTok, but I feel embarrassed also in my age where I'm like, people will be like, what are you doing, mate? And I'll be like, making a TikTok. Like I don't feel like it's something I should be saying out loud.
Just think, what would Azra Stevens do?
I don't know. Who did you say? Ezra Stevens?
Yeah. The Chicago Sky player, right? Have I got that wrong?
You're right, yeah. So I think she's discovered social media this season. She's been making, when they're stuck in the airport, when they're stuck in delays, she's just making little clips and putting them out there. And
during the bubble as well.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, the Chicago Sky doing great work on social medias.
Oh, yeah, because the Dallas team, their social media stuff is actually pretty fun as well. Yeah. You'll get them walking off the court during a training, going back into like the tunnel, and it's like, hey, who's the worst texter in the team? And it's like, does a straw have one hole or two? And
I like that one.
Yeah.
Alicia Gray always has the best answers.
Yes, one of our loyal listeners always sends them to me on Instagram, so it gives me a good laugh.
There are a couple of, so Caz and I have had a bit of experience with the WNBA medias, and the Wings have always been a real stand-up organisation in terms of, dealing with them, with their media team. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
They're keeping it up on both sides.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because we've reached out to a couple of teams, and one of them particularly makes lots of noise about nobody pays attention to us. It's like, yeah, but we've reached out to you like a few times and we're getting crickets back. So, you know what? It's on you, folks.
Yeah.
We'll go talk to someone else. Sorry.
Yeah. So I saw the opportunity during the bubble. That's how Caz and I have become, people who own matching pajamas. We need to sort out a photo. But yeah, we saw the opportunity of like, WNBA, it's in a bubble, everything's going to be remote. What's stopping us over here? I'm not working right now, or whatever, how the situation was. And some teams were amazing. And, particularly Dallas Wings, their media guy at the time, he's no longer with them. He's gone off and done his own thing. He was super useful. He's like, do you have this? No, I don't. How do I get that? Oh, go and do X, Y, Z. And he really took me through the steps. So it's out there. If teams want to go that, it's not even an extra mile. It's just like, it probably took him like 2 minutes to be like, hey, you just need to do this, you idiot. Go and sort it. Yeah. But it felt really, really positive. And there's a number of teams as well. I will name names. I don't care. Las Vegas Aces, their media guy. He's fantastic. Giggy, John. He's great. He's really, really fantastic. And it's so nice working with good, easy to communicate with media. Like, this. But if teams make it easy for you in our role as media or however, God, it makes you feel just a little bit warmer towards them, does it not?
Absolutely.
And that's a lot of the business that we're all in. It's just, people, dealing with people. If you make it easy, things are better. But you can't be complaining, nobody pays attention to our league. Well, yeah, we do. And we see the dumb things you're doing.
Yeah.
And we see how you're blocking people out. And I'm going to say it, I'm going to be a bit negative. I'm not very high on the WNBA right now. I am frustrated with the WNBA right now. It's just,
How come? Why?
It needs to go to the FIBA window. That's the big one for me.
Yeah.
I think it's time that it starts treating itself like a real, proper, big-time league. Because right now, it feels like the biggest summer league on earth. And it's doing such a disservice to the players and to the fans. For me, and I could be completely wrong, I would like to see it. It needs more teams because the talent it's got is unbelievable. And it needs to move at least more in line with the FIBA window. Because these athletes deserve a summer or a winter. They deserve a break. And if we start to move that way, we're not going to have the situation where players are getting suspended or their contracts suspended, which is, I don't like that terminology, but it's technical terminology, it's fine. Getting their things suspended because they're going to be playing in Europe for another 2 weeks. Like we saw what happened with Gabby Williams last season, for example. We're not going to get the situation where it's the business end of the season, but players are choosing to go and play in some tournament in Turkey in the middle of a playoff battle. It limits and mitigates those things. The other side of things is how would that impact on European and obviously the Australian League? I don't know.
But I mean, if you look at what's happened across the WNBA this season, the number of people that were signed in the draft that got cut on the way through was just astounding. And you look at it and you think to yourself, well, hang on a minute. You got first-round draft picks getting cut.
Yeah.
And basically, it almost feels like you've picked them up for a few weeks. You've tried to pick up the best players you can for a few weeks to cover while somebody's playing in Europe or somewhere else. And then when they come back, it's like, thanks a lot. But obviously, there's just not enough slots for the number of players that are coming out of college, that are coming in from overseas as well to try out for the WNBA. I was having a conversation with someone, not that long ago, and they were saying, you know what, just forget about the WNBA. Just, really look to Europe because Europe's got a really amazing level of competition, and it means that you're going to get players coming back for national representation who've been playing at that high level, and it's not like they're going to the WNBA and it's like, am I going to have a job next week?
Yeah.
And the Euro League as well, I feel like I've done a really good job of having the women's league just stand on their own 2 feet in terms of representation and standing alone from the men's comp, whereas the WNBA, I've noticed, especially in the last 12 months, still have that shadow over them, but as the NBA's little sister. The NBA still funds us. It's just like a side hustle of the NBA, and the WNBA is there and they've got great players, but they're always going to be second best to the NBA. And the thing that really annoyed me this year was that the WNBA had their All-Star weekend the same time as the NBA Summer League comp. And I'm like, are you serious? The NBA Summer League and the big party that was over there, it was a spectacle. Look, not saying that was a bad thing. It looked amazing. But there was so much more content and coverage of this Summer League, which is, just a hangout. Like one of my friends went there and he said it was just like a great party with basketball. It was more a party first and then basketball happened to be there. But that overshadowed all of the WNBA All-Star weekend coverage. So it was like, that kind of annoyed me a lot.
So I think the All-Star game, especially this season as well, it just felt like an afterthought. And you look at the things from the fans in the US itself saying, I didn't know this particular event was on. I didn't know I could go to this that was being hosted at All-Star weekend. They couldn't even have fans in at the 3-point contest and the skills contest, which is madness. People want to watch it. They had to watch it on a screen outside the venue. And I know people in the US we were okay here. I was watching on League Pass, but I think when you can't watch on League Pass in the States, it was Blacktown or there's tennis on. One of the tennis matches competition had overrun. So the channel the skills contest was supposed to be on was moved to like, I don't know, ESPN 23 or something. So people couldn't see it. And it's like, Surely, and that's an audience that you've got a captive audience in itself. How are you ever going to expand and reach people that might just come across this if you're not advertising it? You're not making the games accessible. You're not putting things on like merch. Like, you can't get players merchandise. How long did it take to get Kalia Copper's jersey, finals MVP last year? People couldn't buy it. People want to buy it and they want to support the league. And it's almost like sometimes it shoots itself in the foot. Sometimes it's not helping those that want to support it and reaching out to grab this new audience that could be there.
It makes so much more sense as well, because us outside the US put the WNBA as, like the pinnacle and how much we value it and how much we are interested in it. But everyone inside the US, you see so many hateful comments online about how my high school basketball team could beat the Seattle Storm. And it sounds like, if they're not even going to give it the respect of proper TV coverage or merchandising, then, like you said, Caz, shoot yourself in the foot, then you're not going to get any respect back.
Exactly. The comments are so pathetic. I find it amazing as well how you don't get that in Europe. You look at a post, I don't know about the EuroLeague, you don't get those kind of comments. It's a US problem, it seems to be. I'm sure there is some of that elsewhere, but it's, 9 out of 10 comments are negative, as opposed to something on the EuroLeague where it's going to be 9 out of 10 are positive. It's just, it's weird to me.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in golf. I don't find posts about golf and be like, oh, there's no defense. It's weird.
All the bros coming out in their hate in the comments for the WNBA.
But you know what? I'm going to say this too. A few weeks ago, I was at my daughter's game, and the coach of the opposing team was one of those basketball bros, and he's like, they'd won after the game. He's talking to a couple of his mates and he's saying, oh yeah, their best player didn't show up, but I had a mark. We were going to absolutely take her out. And I'm like, dude, we're talking about under 14s. Seriously, what is wrong with you? I was just like, why? Why are you even coaching? Why are you coaching girls?
Yeah.
If that's your attitude, go somewhere else. And that attitude carries over to the criticism of the WNBA, the WNBL, because there is criticism of the WNBL here. I'm sure it is for the WBBL as well. And it's like, what's going on? What's got you to the point where you're coaching a team and you're carrying on like that?
Yeah, that one I really don't understand. Having coached youth sports, girls and boys, or men and women, I don't get that mindset at all. Yeah, it's just bizarre. So, England, rather upsettingly, had a great summer of sport. Obviously, I'm Welsh, just if you're not aware. Winning the women's Euros. For me, for the sport of football, I am a football fan or a soccer fan, however you say. But it's the best possible outcome. It was the only outcome that was going to be positive was England win, unfortunately, sadly. And we've seen this sort of geek behaviour from these losers on the internet being like, the kitchen. And it's just like, dude, if you don't enjoy it, that's just go away. You're not required here. That's just leave. Fine. Nobody cares.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I saw the English team, the way they were celebrating at the press conference.
Ipsy on the table.
That was, I got to tell you, that was awesome. Teams should do stuff like that way more often. But here's my big question, okay? Why is that so well received in Europe? Why do they kind of look at it and go, yeah, this is good? And we don't see that occurring other places. Because that's a real impediment to women's basketball in the US, here in Australia, in the UK, to be having things like that happening.
It's interesting. I think the US, I think some of it, maybe the majority of it, look at the makeup of the WNBA. It's an 80% black league.
Yeah.
And you don't know the figures, but there's a significant amount of gay players or non-binary players in the league.
Yeah.
And I think that comes into it. I think there's still a lot of hate even towards black women, towards gay women, towards strong black gay women. And I think it's not dealt with. And I think people are using that as a reason to hate on it as well. Like when you look at the makeup of other leagues that do get, a lot of bad comments and things, it's not as over as it is with the WNBA, and that league is overtly black.
And it's also the feeling of being threatened that, sport is always long associated as being a men's thing and what men are good at. And now, women are coming to the forefront saying, hey, we are actually also very good at sport. And it's just that threatening kind of feeling. But at the same time, a lot of these things for the geeks and those basketball bros out there, it's not for you. When the female, English team win that European League, win that championship, it's not for you, geeky bros. Everything doesn't need to be for you. There are a whole bunch of other people out there who are interested and invested in this and that are enjoying it. And just because you don't enjoy it, too bad, sorry, but not everything needs to be catered for you. So if you don't like it, just don't watch it, because there are other people that are enjoying it and that it's meaningful for them, and that's who it's for.
And part of the problem is it always has been for them. That's the demographic it always has been for. So now when there's something new, it's like, I don't think I like this. I don't think I like that. There's more out there. That's the way we've always been. It's always been sort of male centric, hasn't it? And you look at the age of the league. The WNBA is only in its 25th year. Look at English football, look how massive that was at the start of the 1920s. Football was banned in this country for women until it was in the 70s. It was banned. Yes. You couldn't. Yeah. It's madness. So they've lost so much time that they're trying to make it up. The leagues are very much in their infancy, and they're behind where the men's league are now, but are they behind where the men's leagues were at that point in their history? 25 years in the NBA. What was that, the 70s?
When
I was going to say, 25 years in the NBA, you're talking in the 70s, and
he was on his knees.
They were struggling to get people in the door.
Yeah. Finals on tape delay. Finals, not even shown.
Yeah, finals on tape delay. Yeah. Hey, Wilt Chamberlain's 100-plus point game. There is no film. It doesn't exist.
But yeah, the NBA literally has a 50-year head start.
Yeah.
Against the WNBA. 50 years, and you're expecting us to be, what you want immediately without the investment and the longevity and the experience. Come on, guys.
But one of the other things,
chill out, bro.
But seriously, for me, one of the things that annoys me is, okay, the NBA, I don't see them making, stepping in and saying, you know what, you clowns, we don't want to hear this. Right? We don't see that, because there's a fear that they're going to annoy their fans. Well, you know what? I'm going to ask the question: do you think they're really fans if they carry on like that?
Exactly. And you look at who goes to the games. Chris Paul goes to the games. Devin Booker goes to the games. Kobe was a massive proponent of women's basketball. You look at Bradley Beal in Washington. The players and the people that know basketball go to the games and they love it and they like it because they know basketball. So these fans that are saying, oh, it's not basketball, lower the rim. Are you a basketball fan? Are you a fan of dunking? Right.
Yeah. I mean,
the Globetrotters are right there. Yeah. They're right there. And that's okay. That's fine. If that's what you like, that's fine. These morons online. It's like, are you a fan of basketball? Are you a fan of men's basketball? And if you're a fan of men's basketball, just say.
Yeah.
And it's all right, cool. I don't need to interact with you. That's fine. Or are you're a fan of men's football or soccer or AFL potentially? All right, cool, great. So you don't like the women's side. All right, so you're not actually a fan of the sport. You're a fan of men playing a sport. Cool. Okay. Just so we're clear. Let's just be claro with it, and then let's move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I find ridiculous is you watch the Golden State Warriors, who's one of the most popular players in the NBA. It's Steph Curry, isn't it? How often does Steph Curry dunk? Yeah. You watch a Warriors game, you watch a Chicago Sky game, you probably, the flow, the ball movement is similar. It's not, obviously there's differences, isn't there? But you're not watching Steph Curry to watch him dunk.
And then it's like, oh, but are they making threes like Steph Curry? No, because no one else in the world will make threes like
in
Steph
the
Curry.
history of the game.
Ever.
Yeah.
But to me, and I use this story, and I'm sure Jacinta's sick of hearing this from me, Jesse Ventura, the wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay. Who has starred in testosterone-driven movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, has been interviewed to say, I prefer watching women's basketball to men's basketball. The reason I like it is closer to the original game, played below the rim. He gets to as many Minnesota Lynx games as he possibly can because he prefers it to watching men's basketball, NBA specifically, because it's a purer form of the game. And that's half of it. I don't know. Maybe they're expecting they think that basketball is NBA, but it's not. It's a completely different game. And in fact, you see in international competition, NBA players struggle for the first few rounds of their international games because they've got to get used to FIBA rules, which are very different. Like in the NBA, if it's a star player, you get fouled because you're within 1.5 meters of them, right? In FIBA, it's a dead body lying on the floor. And they're like, yeah, okay, keep going. There's no foul here. Let's keep going.
Yeah, Luka Doncic mentioned this season that he was asked if it was easier to score in the NBA or EuroLeague, and he said, yeah, it's easier to score in the NBA.
Yeah,
and Josh Giddey has said as well, he found so much immediate success in the NBA because he's like, it's a totally different game. There's so much more space. The defense isn't as up in your face as he was used to playing down here. And the times, he did some stuff for the Boomers. But, I will also never get sick of that story, Paul, so I love it. But it's, the NBA and the rest of the basketball world is literally so different because they literally have a different set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad you brought that example up, Paul, because, we saw Luka, and I'm glad you brought that up, Caz, perfect marriage of conversations. Luka at the Olympics was carrying on like a spoiled child. I unfollowed him on everything after the Olympics, the way he was carrying on, because he was just so used to the being so protected in the NBA. And it's like, come back and play the real rules, Luka. See how you like it.
I find that really quite strange because I remember the first time I saw him play was the Eurobasket 2017. And oh my God. And then watching him for another, 2 years in EuroLeague, just be the best player you've ever seen. So that's really surprising. That's really,
I think you get used to it, don't you? You get used to what you've been around.
Yeah.
He would just carry on and on and on. And, it was painful. And as soon as he step on the court, he's like, someone's standing too close to me at the jump ball. His shoelaces are touching my shoelaces or something stupid.
Now, listen, since we're getting into the international side of things, we got a Women's World Cup coming up. So, obviously you guys have got some fave games. We know, Caz, you're coming down to watch some games. What do you see? What do you think?
We've got the training camp roster for the US out at the moment, which is something I'm keeping a close eye on as well, because I think we've got a new look US team, haven't we? We've got some big names that aren't there because of retirement. So Sue Bird mentioned last year at the Olympics, she wouldn't be there. She's not on the roster. No Taurasi, no Sylvia Fowles, no Tina Charles, no Candace Parker and Nneka Ogwumike, obvious reasons though. So it's looking like a very interesting team. And I think while most people will have, the USA obviously feel they're an incredibly strong team every tournament, the gap is closing internationally. The gap isn't as much as it used to be. And I think we're going to see some very close games. When you look at the European talent, I'm super excited to see France and Australia. So two of my US, France and Australia, I think the teams I'm most excited to see, especially Australia with Lauren Jackson coming back. That's going to be exciting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think this US team, particularly, because they haven't played together, they haven't got that length of time playing together, this is one of those World Cups where there's a chance that they could be beaten.
Yeah. And I think when you look inside, obviously they've got amazing players, great height and things. They only have two sort of true centres listed on the roster. They've got Steph Dawson and Brianna Jones, with Fowles, Griner, and Charles out. And that, obviously, they've got players that can play the 5, but I think that might be interesting in some games, particularly when they come up against teams that have true centres. I think that's going to be something to look for.
That's a really good point, actually, because now we know the Opals roster, and we are a lot taller than what we were in Tokyo, and perhaps one of the taller teams that we've had in a while. Yep. I wonder if, Sandy Brondello and the likes had some intel into Team USA and think, actually, we're going to pick a little, go a little bit taller for that reason. Maybe I'm just speculating.
No, that's a good point. And if you think it, Sandy Brondello's going to be seeing the players, isn't she, week in, week out? She's going to know the Team USA roster because she's coaching against them in the WNBA. In fact, she's got players on the team. Steph Dawson's on her team in New York. So I think that's going to be really interesting.
My only question is Arike Ogunbowale going to make it to the World Cup? I mean, is that what we're going to see?
She had some crazy surgery that I'd never even heard of. What was the term they used? It's like she had some sort of surgically repaired muscle or something. It was a bizarre press release. Let me find what it was called. It was the most bizarre press release that they put out, like everyone was supposed to go, oh, I know what that means. And it was like the most obscure injury that...
I just did a quick look. Iliac crest core muscle avulsion repair.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Could we get that once more in English?
Iliac crest, which is, in your pelvis, your pelvis is broken up into 3 bits. One of them being the ilium, and then the ridge over the top is, I'm pretty sure, the crest. I just have to double check what avulsion is. So you're really digging into my anatomy knowledge here. But iliac crest core muscle avulsion repair, which sounds like a very unique injury. How someone does that, I don't know. An avulsion is an injury in which a body structure is torn off by either trauma or surgery. So it sounds like that one of her muscles around her pelvis, particularly around that crest, so probably attaching her abs to her pelvis, has torn. And it sounds like she's had... how someone does that, I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor, but based on the anatomy that I have successfully passed at uni... That's what I'm.
I've got to tell you, I'm looking at all the expressions on our faces, and I'm glad this one's not going out as a video. I've got to tell you.
Oh my word!
So she's been ruled out of Dallas's first round playoff series, which is going on at the moment. Which shocker.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah. Good Lord.
So I can't see. I don't know. Is that a 6-week recovery kind of thing?
Well, even if it isn't, I mean, do you want to risk it at that sort of top level competition in the World Cup?
I want to say no. I wouldn't want to risk that, but I'm not picking the same. I mean, she's young. She's young. She's a fantastic player. She's going to have a lot more chances. If I was her, just chill out, have a summer and chill out. Well, have a break and chill out.
Another one is Betnár Delaney going to the World Cup.
So she's just come back from her injury, but she's been sidelined like practically most of the season. And she's amazing. She's just come back. Yes. New York beat Chicago. Put her in there because she's huge. She's a game changer.
And she is an absolute Focus Hoops favourite of ours, Betnár Delaney. What a player.
So I like that the aces are so heavily represented there as well. You've got Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, Asia Wilson. I've forgotten someone. I think we've got 4. Oh, Chelsea Gray, obviously. And I think when you depending who gets picked for the final roster, you are going to see the team with players that do play together in their teams in the WNBA as well, which I just do think will help. But as to your point earlier, when's training camp? Like when are they going to train together? They're going to have
the 6th to the 12th of September.
So that excludes players in the playoffs, though.
Yeah, and that's something we were talking about down here. It was going back and forth on Twitter. Is like, if it goes all the way, some people don't finish playing until 2 days before the World Cup tips off. So it's sort of like, okay, we win, we party, we spend a day on a plane. Okay, we're ready to play.
It's crazy. And you've got to look at the teams that are, I guess more likely to be in the finals. I'd be leaning to a Seattle, Vegas, Chicago,
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Yeah, Vegas. But you look at the makeup of the players on those teams, and also in Seattle, Steph Talbot, Ezi Maguire, they're either going to be without players, or the national team is going to be without players at some point, because it's just not going to be practical, I think. But is it Ezi and Steph have said they'll miss the first group game if Seattle are in the final, I think.
Oh, and that's against France, isn't it? Our first group game's against France. So, look, I'm all for you getting a WNBA championships, but I really need you back home to beat France, girls.
And then Gabby Williams as well. She'd be playing for France. She'd also be in Seattle. So, and if it's Chicago, Johannes is in Chicago with and Rupert's in Vegas. Ileana Rupert. You've got a.
It's not really a World Cup then if you're missing players. You know what I mean?
It just makes me so mad. I'm frustrated. You can see on the camera, I'm just sat here, a bundle of frustration. I refer you to my earlier point of it's the biggest summer league on earth. How on earth are we in a situation where a domestic competition ends a day, 2 days before the World Cup? The World Cup.
It's not like they didn't know it was coming.
No, we don't have. It's not like a Qatar situation where they're mucking about when it's going to kick off, right? We know, and it's more. WNBA annoying me, disrespectful. Is that too strong a word? I think it's disrespect. I think it's disrespectful to the rest of the world.
Yeah, but it's on top of that. It's it's got to be. Because the NBA needs clear air for TV and whatever else, and then there's, this and that, and so therefore this is the window that they have to play, right, before you start getting into football season picking up, and so I'd say an awful lot of what's happening in the States is driven more by broadcast and broadcast than anything else.
Then you got to have a truncated league season, like you got to go for your bubble, 22 games?
Yeah, maybe.
Let's get that. Let's have it compact. Let's have it. I don't know.
You can't add back-to-backs in when they're flying commercial and getting stuck in an airport and having to sleep in an airport overnight. No. So you can't start earlier because of Europe. That's got to be.
It's a simple solution. Just cut back the NBA season.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you said something earlier about how different the game is and how defenses give players more space until the playoffs. And the only NBA basketball worth watching is playoff basketball. Regular 100%. And maybe Christmas, just because it's they wear nice unis. Because the NBA for me is basketball, of course, but it isn't the best basketball. The best basketball is EuroLeague, men and women.
Yeah.
And I don't think it helps that they play 82 game seasons. I understand that this is America and we got, baseball goes 162, hockey goes 82, but cut it back and maybe we'll see actually better basketball. And there is a call for that, at least to bring it into the low 70s, high 60s.
Yeah, because it also reduces the amount of wear and tear on those star players who, actually aren't on the floor for a period of time, and then also it helps the WNBA because they've got a bit more room to move the schedule around, and not be clashing, with I think the preseason for the NFL started this week.
Yeah.
Right? And it's been doing numbers as well because NFL is a beast that I don't think any of us truly appreciate what that does on a broadcast level. Preseason games, nothing preseason games are absolutely tanking other TV shows, hammering them.
Yeah, so, that gives the WNBA an opportunity to have some clear air for the finals and not be competing against, the NFL and I think, we're getting to the tail end of baseball.
Yeah, we've got about a month and a half.
Yeah, but it's getting down to the business end of the baseball season.
Yeah.
Right? NFL's starting to round up. So it's like, they're getting sandwiched. And I understand, you need the broadcast, but there's got to be something that can be done to shift it around. Because, look, let's be honest, if they scheduled it right, so that the WNBA, even if they played across the NBA final series, but on different days, different periods, or something like that, because look, based off social media, the people that are going to watch the NBA aren't going to watch the WNBA.
100%.
Right? So you're not going to have audience loss on either side. You just got to make sure that you got broadcast partners that aren't clashing over that period. That's all.
I think earlier in the season, when did the season start this year? There was a time essentially where there was such a gap between games, between NBA finals games or playoffs games. It would have made sense to have some WNBA games as well, because you've got those slots, it's empty, there's not as much going on at the start of that season, and you've got opportunity to maybe get out there where people aren't watching the finals or watching something else.
I'm going to switch up this conversation quickly. I'm going to praise the WNBA.
Yep, here we go.
I'm going to do it. We have a proper playoff system, people. Proper playoffs.
Yes. At least it's not one game knockout.
Yes.
No. There's two ways to do playoffs, and WNBA have done it wrong for years. Now they're doing it right with their best of 3, then 2 best of 5s. Maybe you could make that final. I know I've just been moaning about it, but maybe the finals could be a best of 7. I don't know, I'm just saying. But you either do this or you do the KBO Korean baseball style playoffs, where it's like this wild ladder where like the 7 and the 8 play, but the 7 have like a 1-game advantage, and then the winner of that plays the 6, then the 5, then the 4, then the...
Okay, I'm sorry. There's too much maths in that for me. I'm out. Okay, now look.
But this is a better system.
Okay, before we wrap it up, there's 2 things I want to do. First of all, Eurobasket 23, Great Britain, how they're shaping up, and what are your predictions?
Eurobasket 23, so the women's side of things.
Yep.
Yeah, so it kicks off November. I think it's going to be a new look team, isn't it, when you kind of look at the roster. So Joe's out. I don't know.
Janice is out.
Yeah, Cat's out. When you look at the team that we had, was it February? I can't remember who they were playing. They didn't win in February. They looked like a new team playing together that hadn't played together too much. But when you look at the players that are going to be on there, so we're going to have, I would guess, Holly Winterburn, who we've already spoken about, a fantastic talent coming through, and she's going to be like the face of GB, I would think, for a long time. Players like Shanece Beckford-Norton and Shaquila Joseph was on there. So a lot of the London team were on that GB team earlier in the year. We had Georgia Gale from Sheffield. So I think we've got this new look, a lot younger team. Whether Temi Fagbenle will be playing, I know she was injured last time, but she's a great boost, obviously. Like, you would rather want a team with Temi than without. I think they're in a good position, but I wonder if they may be a cycle away from the qualifying, just with the experience of not having played together too much and the changes. Because Darren, do you know where they are currently, like what they need to win with the losses? I think the losses in February might have hurt their chances this time.
Yeah. The FIBA website is not providing me with what I'm looking for, but it does feel like we're in using that word again, a real transition at the moment in terms of, who's going to start taking on the team. I think the GB squad is in a really exciting place, but I don't know if they're going to make it to Eurobasket. I'm not sure if that's even... I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's very difficult to get there.
I think they went 0-2 in February, didn't they?
Yeah.
I remember. And they may have even lost the November before. So I think it's an uphill battle with them.
Yeah.
So I think it might be the next cycle. But one of the big things for GB that they need to sort out, or maybe it's FIBA, I can't remember who needs to sort it out. We need to get Kennedy Leonard on that team. So currently, she's not classed as GB because she didn't apply for, I believe it was that she didn't have a GB passport before she was 16.
Yeah,
so correct. She has to become one of the players on the dual passport, like Carly Samuelson. So you'd be picking between Carly Samuelson and Kennedy Leonard. I believe they've appealed. I don't know if you appeal to GB or to FIBA. But
it's FIBA.
Silly rule, don't like it. Kennedy Leonard should be playing for GB.
Okay, well, you know what you do, Caz? While you're down here, go and find some of the FIBA officials.
I'll go have a word.
and have a word.
I'll get it.
I'll be volunteering, so I'll hook you up.
Cool. Yeah. We'll get Kennedy on that team.
Yeah.
Okay. And the final thing, you guys finally got to meet in real life.
We did, and it was awesome. We got to work together, didn't we? Then we got to hang out. So it was fantastic. We met at the NBL playoff finals this year up in Manchester. So Darren came up. I was co-commentating the women's Division 1 and Division 2 games, and Darren was presenting the whole weekend, weren't you?
Yep.
So we got to actually, present one of the introductions to the D2 game together. And did we do D1 as well?
No, me and Kat did D1.
That was it, yes.
And you and I did the Division 2. Yeah, it was awesome. It was really quite funny because firstly, somebody at Basketball England, John Hobbs, thought, this guy, he's somebody we should put in a microphone in front of and have him in front of a camera for 15 segments across the 2 days. Let's do that. I was like, all right, cool. That's awesome. Love that. And so I think you rocked it partway through the first men's game. I'm sat there and I'm watching the game and I'm just checking over at the door. It's like, oh. And then Caz walks in and it was so nice because it was like, oh my gosh, we finally get to meet. Also, yeah, I think Arike is going to have a great year. I actually picked up whatever conversation you were having, probably about Satu Sabali being unbelievable. It was very nice. And subsequently, we've gone and enjoyed a bit more basketball. Caz treated us all to courtside at the WBBL and BBL finals.
I've got to thank Rhiannon Bailey for that from the Mystics. She hooked me up with those tickets.
And she doesn't like to talk about it, but she does have London Lions merch now. So I think we all know where her allegiance really are.
Hey, I've got a Mystics jersey. I got a one-of-the-kind Manchester Mystics jersey.
Such a nice jersey as well.
It is nice. I like to wear it with my Lions hat and confuse people.
All right, well, we're expecting to see it all when you come down.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be decked out.
All right, guys, it's been great having you back on the show. Really fantastic catching up. Looking forward to somewhere during your season, try and, get an update on what's happening. Also, take care in the heat over there because I know it's kind of been pretty miserable. And thanks for your time. It's been great.
No, thank you for having us. It's been great to be back to catch up with you guys again. And we follow what you guys do, and we love it. The stuff that you're putting out is so good, and you're doing such a fantastic job to promote the women's game, not just in Australia, just around the world. So keep doing that. It's amazing.
Yeah,
thanks.
No, absolutely the same. Just a huge thank you and congratulations to you both on what you're doing. Just then I saw you commentating at real high levels, so congratulations and keep it up.
Yeah,
getting there. I mean, I can't guarantee the standard of commentary I'm giving is a high level, but on paper it looks like I'm commentating at a high level, so thank you.
We've listened. It absolutely is.
Okay, thanks guys. Shooting the Breeze can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Don't forget to subscribe and share the podcast with all your friends.